Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff. Just want to jump in here. This is a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk. This is actually going to be the audio recorded from a Facebook Live that our team is doing every single day, Monday through Friday, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time in our Facebook private group. You can get in that group at teachbettergroup.com or go on to Facebook and just search Teach Better Team. You'll see our page and then you'll see the group. Get in there. So here we go, a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk pulled from one of our Facebook Live videos in our private group at teachbettergroup.com. Hope you enjoy.
Amazing. Kristen, thank you so much for joining me this morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm actually not tired. I'm awake and alive and ready to go.
So one of the things that people generally don't realize is that we are on Eastern Time, which means we are the latest possible time in the United States. But when we talk to, like when Ray's on from Illinois, you're on from Illinois, like Central Time, we've talked to people from California, they have to wake up a lot earlier. So I just want to let you know that I personally appreciate that you woke up earlier than I had to today to join us. And I'm really, really, really excited. So it has been a crazy few weeks, right? There's a lot of things that have been going on. So just like, how are things going for you in general? Tell us a little bit about kind of where you teach, what you teach, and some of the other great projects you have right now. And then let's just share how are things going.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be here. And I teach at Joliet West High School, which is Joliet Township 204 in Joliet, Illinois. I teach high school English, sophomores and seniors. And I have also then been deemed a fourth grade teacher because my 10-year-old son is homeschooled right now with remote learning. So now I'm teaching elementary school as well. And I'm telling you, I'm relearning math. So
that is crazy. So I really love the fact that you identified yourself as a fourth grade teacher. I think a lot of parents are also feeling that. I know we've actually had a couple parents even try to get some information from us to kind of help them in their, sorry, I'm getting the live feed up so I can read the comments. So they can get information on how to teach their students better. So that's absolutely fantastic. I do want to take a minute to say that Dave Schmidow, the one and the only, is joining our chat right now. So that's awesome. Brianne Fennell, as always. Adam Kados, Holly Stewart, Lindsay Titus, Alex Valencic. Wow, everyone came out to see you today, Kristen. I think this is crazy. Meg, Joe Gonzalez.
I think that's because Dave told him to.
That's okay. I don't care why they're here. And if the power of Dave Schmidow is working, that's fine with me. I'd also like to say hey to Ray, and Penny Dixon is also logging in with her new Teach Better gear on, which is awesome. So she's got her Teach Better gear on that is available right now. You can get your own Teach Better swag. We'll put the link somewhere in the comments. But so Kristen, you also have, first of all, you have a brand new book coming out Sunday. So we're going to talk about that. But you also have a lot of expertise and a lot of information on differentiation from your first book. And your first book is called Differentiated Instruction in the Teaching Profession. Look, and there it is, right there. You should go to Amazon and search Differentiated Instruction in the Teaching Profession and just pick that up right now. It's a fantastic read. Kristen is an amazing educator, an amazing resource, an amazing expert for all things education and differentiation. So please make sure you pick that up, whether you're listening in live or listening on the podcast later. Make sure you check that out. So people are still coming in. I just want to give them a minute before we release the news of your oncoming, your additional book, which I'm really excited about. So you do have a new project. You can lift it up. Just lift it up. Let's do it right now. It's going to be amazing. You do have a new project called The Perfect Puppy. So tell us a little bit about The Perfect Puppy and what's going on there.
All right. Well, one thing I forgot to mention is I'm a national board certified teacher as well. So what that means is I'm excellent at what I do.
Heck yeah.
So the Perfect Puppy actually started about 17 years ago with when I had a West Highland White Terrier. And a lot of people thought she was the Toto dog, which is a Cairn Terrier. It's from the same family, but they're different breeds. So I started writing about how, people were mistaking her for the Toto dog. And so I kind of put that back, after, not necessarily failures, but rejection after rejection. I just put it away. So unfortunately, we had to put her down in January of 2018. And so, I wanted to wait. And then my husband and my son wanted a new dog. So we went looking, and he really wanted a golden doodle. Well, we went to a breeder. I only go to see the mom and the dad as well. And they had a black standard poodle as the dad and a golden retriever as the mom. And we saw both of them. We saw the litter. Out of the litter of 10, there were 6 left. And 4 were black and 4 were golden color. And we wanted the girl, and she was a black golden doodle. So we brought her home, really excited, and everyone told me it's a Labradoodle. I'm like, no, it's not. I saw the mom, I saw the dad, and they're like, you need to get your money back. I said, no, it's a golden doodle. And so I wrote the book because people judged her on the color of her fur because she's black in color, not gold. Well, golden doodle is a breed, not a color. In fact, golden doodles come in 5 different colors. So I wrote the book saying that people misjudge others based on, on how they look, who they are, and they don't really understand them. So that's how the book came about, the idea of misjudging. And in the book, a golden doodle actually misjudges the Abby May, what's her name is, and saying you're not a golden doodle, you're not even golden color. And it kind of hurts her feelings when she's new to the area. So it kind of brings in the idea of new people, not judging them. And that's what the children's book story is about.
So Alex Valencic said that your book is on his wish list, but his wife says he has to finish his current stack of books first. So I think that's pretty cool. So that sounds awesome. So where can people pick this up? It's out Sunday, correct? It's like this Sunday?
Yeah, well, we're launching it Sunday on Facebook Live on my Facebook page, which is Kristen Copper's author. I can get the link for you on that one.
Sure.
And we're going to, I know it's Mother's Day, but we're in quarantine right now, so I'm not going anywhere. And so
a brunch for you?
No. So 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'll go live, and I'll actually give away a book after the reading of it on live. Whoever joins me live, I'll give away the book when they are available. So it should be available on Amazon starting Sunday.
That is awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out. And what a great message, right? So I think regardless of the grade you teach, I'm a huge fan of using simple stories to illustrate important, deep messages. And I think regardless of the age of the child listening to the story, like they can get kind of that conversation out of it. And by the way, if no one saw Kristen's mug, I just want you to just take that message in and enjoy it just with your morning coffee. Because
it was just ordered this morning.
Maybe we'll make that available on the Teach Better swag store. Chad, the best mugs available now. Jeff, I'm going to need you to get on that, buddy. If we could just make that happen. I mean, technically they have hashtag Team Jeff and hashtag Team Ray shirts. So I think Chad is the best mugs could be fair. I think that's fair.
I think it is, because you don't want to leave anyone out, just like my book says. So
yeah. Brienne Fennell says she loves her EduMatch authors. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hashtag Chad's mug, says Dave Schmidt. That is awesome. It's gonna happen, guys. Let's keep those comments coming. We're gonna get a Team Chad mug or Chad's mug. Hashtag Chad is the best. Alex Valencic said, "Loving this. This is great. I'm just going to soak this in for just a moment longer before we move on." So we even have Mexico joining us. Tammy from Mexico, Guadalajara, Mexico, is joining us on the live. So that's fantastic. So that sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to order that on Amazon on Sunday. I'm going to read it to my kids. I'm really excited about that. So save a copy for me. I'll be ordering that as soon as possible. And then let's talk about your other book with differentiation and your other area of, I think, expertise, because I think that's a really common thing I'm hearing from a lot of teachers. They're going, okay, I get being online. I have my Google Classroom set up, but like, what about my IEP students? What about differentiation online? So I'd really like to kind of open up the can of worms, I should say, of differentiation remotely. Now, my initial response to teachers is that differentiation doesn't need to change a whole lot. Some of the same things you were doing in the classroom can still happen remotely, but sometimes teachers just need those practical tips and tools. So what would your response be to a teacher that's just going, hey, how do I continue to differentiate for my students in this e-learning, distance learning, remote learning environment?
Well, it's all about how we teach it, not what we teach. We can teach anything. It's just how we teach. And I've been doing differentiated instruction for probably about 10 years. And because I'm a high school teacher, if I differentiated every assignment, I would be doing over 500 different assignments per assignment.
Right.
Make more able to learn the same. So instead of changing what you teach, you change how you teach. So you teach it in a different way. They could still have the same assignment as the student next to them, except you're teaching it in a different way for them to learn. I'm a visual learner, so if you sat there and explained something to me, I'm like, what do I do? If you show me, I can do that. So I do both auditory and visual learning in the classroom. And one way to understand metamorphosis, when we were reading the book, or the short story Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Let me get it here. Students, and then we had a school play, and I always like to do authentic learning. Authentic learning is really important to me because they're not just writing it for me. I want them to write it for other people. And if they're writing it just for the teacher, they're not going to give their best work. So we read Metamorphosis, and we also had a play that year called Into the Woods. And the students had to pick a character, and they had to metamorphosize it with one of the characters in the novel. And one of the characters was Davina from Chronicle of a Death Foretold to Rapunzel from the movie, from the play. And so you could see how she put the character on one side, she was Rapunzel, real pretty. On the other side, because Davina was like a maid, she made the idea of the maid. And then another student did Cinderella, and it's a 4-block or 4-tile, and then she did the townspeople. Cinderella starts, and then it turns into birds, and then the birds become townspeople.
Wow.
So these are in the book, and these are actual students' assignments that I gave, and they gave me permission to put them in here. And there's a bunch of other assignments that students did. I always incorporate their work because if it wasn't for them, then I don't get better. And so it's not what you're teaching, it's how you're teaching it. You could give the same assignment. You might have to get rid of a question or two, but you don't have to make 40 copies of the same assignment for each student.
I love that. It's not what you teach, it's how you teach it. Another really great thing I think you spoke on was if we give our students authentic tasks that are mastery based, and if we give them engaging tasks, a lot of the differentiation pieces start to happen organically, right? So by giving them choice and multiple options to demonstrate their mastery and show what they know, you're inherently differentiating by just providing that choice, because you're giving them multiple access points to demonstrate mastery in the way that they see fit. I mean, you just gave 2 really simple examples there, but you can do the exact same thing in Google Classroom. In fact, Tammy from Mexico says that she's meeting with small groups just like she did in her classroom, but like on Zoom. So like still pulling those small groups as needed and things like that. Those are really, really easy ways. So Erin Reuter even says that she's added choice into some of her mastery grids because she runs the grid method in her classroom. So like she's adding more choice and options into the grids that she's already giving her students. So that's absolutely fantastic. So I want everyone to make a big star by that. It's not what you're teaching, it's how you're teaching it. And when we put best practices into our instruction, just like Kristen's showing you here, differentiation and a lot of those boxes we want to check happen organically, and they happen daily, regardless of if you're making 40 of different versions of a worksheet or whatever that is. So that's absolutely awesome. Let's see.
And the grid method.
Go ahead.
The grid method works perfect with this, because you can have that grid method ready, and I've done it, and they work at their own pace. And the fact is, you're there to moderate. You're really not supposed to be teaching all hour in front of the class. You're supposed to be there to help them. You teach them in the beginning, and then you give them the skills needed. And that grid method definitely helps them move along at their own pace, because and I know students don't work at the same pace. Some students will finish early, some students will finish a lot later. But we also don't want to waste class time. So the grid method definitely works perfectly in this, how to differentiate the teaching of it. I'm
going to pay Kristen her $20 for pitching that after this. Appreciate that. Don't worry, I got you. No, but you're absolutely right? So if you let's pretend like we took a sampling of 500 different IEPs from schools and districts across the country. And we looked at all those IEPs, we laid them out on a table, and we looked at the number one thing that is put on student interventions, on like that list of things we do for students to overcome their barriers, right? If you look at most IEPs, the most common one that I've ever seen on every single IEP that I've ever looked at is extended time. Mm-hmm. And I think most people would agree with that. Yeah, extra time, extended time, more time, like on assignments, on tests, like whatever that is. Now, if we go on the other side, in Ohio, we have like something called a WEP, which is for gifted or advanced learners. And we say for the highest students, we should curriculum compact, let them work ahead. And one of the things I tell people all the time is asynchronous, self-paced mastery learning, just like you're talking about, allows students, regardless of where they are in that spectrum, to get what they need when they need it. And those that first thing on every IEP you have is automatically taken care of, because if they need more time, they're automatically getting it. And this also brings up, their zone of proximal development. A lot of people maybe haven't heard that since Education 101 classes in college, but keeping students right in that zone where they're going to maximally learn. And you do that by doing exactly what Kristen says. You keep them engaged with authenticity. You give them multiple options and keep them focused on the learning. And then you make sure that they're not outside of their ability level, or that you're not boring them to death with stuff they already know. You want to keep them right in that zone so that they can thrive. And whether you're in a classroom or digitally, it doesn't matter. Like, those things are fundamentally true. So I definitely think giving choice, giving options is a great tip. Giving authentic assignments, regardless of if we're remotely or learning or if we're in the classroom, great tip. Focusing on what you teach, or no, sorry, I had that backwards. Focusing on how you teach, not what you're teaching. Sorry, I messed up like the big bullet point I told everyone to write down. That's perfect. See, I'm glad I caught myself, because someone would have given me crap for that later when they listen to the podcast on Teach Better Talk or watch this later. So those are some great tips. So if I'm a teacher and I have already put together my entire Google Classroom, right? I already feel like I'm at the end of my rope, except for I'm realizing my students aren't really performing up to par, and I really need to differentiate for some of my lower students, or maybe even some of my higher students, right? Like, what is like a good first step I could do as a teacher? What's some of the first things I should look at in my assignments, or how I'm teaching those assignments, that I can kind of start this process with?
Well, the very first thing, and I've experienced this with my own students, is how is everything worded? How are the questions worded? How's the assignment worded? Because we want to like sound really good, proper. But if it's worded to where they don't understand it, I mean, don't forget, these could be elementary, secondary, or junior high kids. They may not have the same vocabulary as we do. And that's another thing of how you're teaching it. So you could still use simple words like, in what way does this work? Instead of trying to use pretentious words and making it sound a lot better using our own vocabulary. So the very first thing is look at the assignment questions. Can you understand it from a typical high school or elementary or junior high level?
That's a really great tip. And that's something I think a lot of teachers just overlook because they're trying to put it together, get it done, make the post. But we talk in our natural vernacular, our natural vocabulary. Something I used to do verbally if I'm on a Zoom meeting or teaching with students is if I use a larger word, I use a synonym that's a simple word right next to it, so that I start to assimilate students to that harder vocabulary. I don't assume that because I use this big word that they're supposed to know at this age, that they're going to just get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great way. That's a great way to take care of some inequities that exist in the, in child development too. All our kids, you hear this all the time. When students start in pre-K or K, right? They're already at disparaging levels of vocabulary because some of them have been read to their entire childhood or their infancy, and some of them have never seen a letter or a book. And so, like, these gaps can get wider as in their vocabulary acquisition. That delay can continue if needed. So Sarah Beth said, also include academic vocabulary as part of their instruction. So embedding those tier 2 and tier 3 words into the instruction with scaffolds and support around them is a way to continue to build that vocabulary as well. But I love the fact of, like, the first place you should look is the language you're using to communicate with your students. I think that's a great tip. Because if I'm looking through my worksheets and going, could I use a more clear word here? Could I use an example that relates more to my students, right? Things like that are absolutely, absolutely vital.
And one thing too, the last comment is you could always write the sentence one way and then rewrite it another way using higher vocabulary so they could see what the difference is and still understand the question.
Yeah, I love that. So Brian Gerst has just commented, I'm thinking of giving a suggested way of meeting the target, but also leaving the option open for students to create their own. Yes, 1,000 times. The way you ask a student for demonstration of mastery may not be the way that they want to demonstrate it. And that is a universal truth. So doesn't mean you can't suggest. Brian, I love that comment. Doesn't mean you can't suggest, hey, maybe you could write me a 3-sentence summary, or maybe you could draw a picture or a comparison image, like kind of like what you were having your students do. But I would always add the tagline, if you can demonstrate mastery in another way, ask and feel free to do that. Just leave it open. And by just simply adding that little phrase at the end, you're now opening up so many possibilities. You're also opening up the discussion with the student of, well, if you can't show me the way I'm asking, can you show me a different way? Can you verbally explain it? Can you draw me a picture? Can you write it? Can you record verbally a response? We have so many great tools to use. Opening up those options for students is absolutely vital.
So, Chad, on that note, because of our last unit in our high school, what I'm teaching really had to be done in the school. So I had to recreate the last unit. And I'm not going to have students read a play on the computer because I'd rather have books in their hands, and I don't want to sit there and read on the computer.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Technology is great, but sometimes we just need to take it away.
Yeah.
So I gave them a Google form and I said, what do you want to learn this last unit? Of course, a lot of them are like, nothing, I want to sleep, but that wasn't going. But they chose what they wanted to learn this last unit. So I put together a unit based on all their responses, and they have choices. They have 5 different choices for their final assessment. And I do standard-based grading in the classroom. So they only have 3 grades. But the other checkpoints lead up to those grades. And they actually created their last unit. It wasn't me. It wasn't something that I had, so I had to recreate everything. But it was fine because it was something that they wanted to learn. And I know that at least they'll choose one of the options, because I gave all the options of what students wanted. And in the beginning of the year, for the first time, I asked them, what is it that you want to learn this year from me? And a lot of them are like, nothing, I don't want to do writing. I said, well, that's not going to happen. You're high school. You have to learn certain writing if you're going to college and all that.
Sure.
But there are options where they had choices. They had, instead of doing a compare and contrast essay, which is extremely hard for sophomores if it's not taught right. And even when it is taught right, it is extremely hard for them to understand. So I just had them do a comparison and contrast chart. It still did the same thing. They've already written 3 other essays. I'm not worried about the writing. I'm worried about the content. And so all they had to do was compare and contrast the two, and it didn't have to be in an essay form. That the skill was to understand how to compare and contrast two similar or different readings. So yeah, the idea is if they can do it and master one level, then give them another option. And that's what I do. They have several options for every assessment.
I love it. I love so much about what you just said. I'm trying to just dissect it in my brain. The focus on like mastery of skills, standards, and objectives over like completion of these tasks, I think is a huge takeaway. I think a lot of teachers, if they weren't already wrestling with that, they definitely are now, right? Because like the idea that in this digital environment that we're all in right now, that we should just be counting what you turned in and didn't turn in is absolutely crazy, and it's going to create this huge equity gap. It's going to create all these other issues. And we really have to be able to be open to the idea of, fewer assignments of higher quality, providing student autonomy, choice, and ownership to demonstrate mastery of what they need to prove. And then once they've demonstrated that, them doing 14 worksheets doesn't matter if they've shown that they've mastered the concept, right? So like being able to provide them, and I've told this to a lot of teachers, if you are still grading to punitively punish students for not doing work, you're wrong. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just like that's not the point of feedback. That's not the point of reporting. The purpose of grading and reporting is to provide feedback on mastery of content, period, end of story. So whatever that grading is needs to represent mastery of that content. So it doesn't mean all the grades are high. You can still have low mastery of content, but it should only be for feedback and growth purposes. So think about grading for growth as opposed to grading for punitive measures, right? To teach them a lesson about, responsibility. Like now is not the time for that. Now, like it's just not. Like we're in a crisis right now. And, I've said this, I think, almost every single live. A lot of teachers right now are saying we're doing e-learning, we're doing remote learning, we're doing distance learning. But I have some really crazy news. You're not. You're doing emergency, crisis, traumatic learning in a digital environment that everyone put together in about 3 days. So don't this isn't the time to be like, well, like everything's business as normal. It's not. This is a crisis. It's a pandemic. And I'm sorry, but things are just not going to go back to normal. So we can't keep doing things the way we always did and go, they'll figure it out. We have to have grace. We have to have flexibility. And one of the ways we can do that, just like you're saying, is a standards and mastery-based approach. Open some asynchronous learning. Provide your students choice and options. Fewer assignments with more choice and more ownership can allow multiple students wherever they are to thrive in your digital environment that you're trying to run right now. So I love that. That was awesome. I got really excited, obviously. So I don't want to keep you here all morning, okay? I know you have probably a lot to do. I do want to say Rochelle Dene-Poth is here, Holly Stewart, Adam Moeller. Thanks for joining in. My boy Jeff Gargis just popping in right now, so that's super exciting. So Jeff, I don't know if you see the mug that Kristen has, but we need to get that on the swag store as soon as possible. There have been a wave of requests for quote-unquote Chad is the best mugs. I think we're going to have to make that happen, just giving the people what they want.
I get royalty on that, though, right?
Sure. We'll work something out on the back end. We'll work something out. some copy or trademark, right?
There you go.
So Sarah Beth says, thinking about how important differentiate Jeff said, "Get out of here." So Sarah Beth says, think about how important differentiation is going to be in the fall. Teachers are all going to need to pivot. So this is a really great point that Sarah is making right now, in that, yes, differentiation is important right now, but I think I'm correct in this prediction, that we're going to see a greater gap in learning and a greater summer slide than we've ever seen coming back in the fall, which means I don't think any school or classroom or district's going to be able to say, okay, welcome back, kids. Start whatever grade you're in, right? Like, we're going to have to really be able to pivot and meet them where they are. What are some of your thoughts of what we can do in the fall as classroom, as educators and classroom teachers, to like make sure we're closing those gaps and meeting some of our students' needs?
Well, I know it's going to be really hard for math. At least for English, the skills, they build on each other and you just get better. With math. You have to have one level to the next. But at least for English, what I'm going to do is have a Google form for my students in the beginning of the year and at the end of this year, and find out, just honestly, after grades are in, what is it that deterred you from participating or completing all the assignments, or coming into the fall? What did you do? You know, I told the students I'd rather have honesty than anything. And it's not going to hurt their grade, but I want to know, what were the problems? Like with seniors, I have some that have to work. They have to provide for their families. So they're not on Zoom calls, or they're maybe not getting assignments in, but they're getting their summatives in, which is the most important to me. Like I said, like you said, if they know one formative, they don't have to do the rest, but that leads to their summative. So, you know, high school is a lot harder because some students have to work or take care of little younger siblings. So I want to find out, like, what do you learn? What do you know? And I'm going to give them some, you know, key objectives that they should have learned from the previous year to see how well they know it. This way, I can figure out where I need to go with the students, and then create that grid method on who's where they are and who needs that extra help. And that definitely will help, but you got to find out from the students. We can't assume that they know how, that my son's going to go in the 5th grade. Well, he's doing all his work, and I'm making sure he's doing his work, but I got to make sure that he's ready for 5th grade. You know, he's not going to, even though it takes him a little bit longer, he's going to complete the assignment, because I want him to have that knowledge. I don't want him to fall behind. And so that's what we have to think about our students, is where are they at? What do they complete? What objectives do they know? What standards do they know? And then you go from there. And then second semester, hopefully we can get back into, you know, how normal it was. But that first semester, we have to be, and I'm a very tough teacher. I really am. The students, they say they love to hate me, but they understand what I'm doing is I'm pushing them, and they understand that. And for me, that's going to be a big step to take it slow. It really is. And I'm going to do it because it is about the students. It's not about me. It's not about anything else. It's about, hold on. This is the star of my book.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
She's a big girl.
Yeah. Yes,
she's got her baby. So she had to come and say hi.
Yeah. She's excited about the book too.
She is. She's all excited about it. She's a really big girl. But yeah, we have to make sure that we understand the students and what they learned or what they don't know, and then just be, be cautious with them. And it's new for all of us. I don't really know, because we've never been in this position before.
No one has.
So it's going to be new to everyone.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight that last part. No one's ever done this before. No one's ever been here before. No one's ever had to do this before. So it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to just be figuring this out. But what is not okay is if we expect things to just go right back to business as usual, because that is an unrealistic expectation. Something I talk to teachers in districts and schools about all the time is that you have to plan for success based on what you have, not for what you want. right? Every teacher would love if their students are going to come to them with all of the knowledge that they were supposed to have and doing all of their remote learning assignments and be able to move right on. But if we plan for that, we will fail. We will make those gaps wider. We will start the year off on a horrible note because we haven't done a few things. We haven't pre-assessed where our students are, which is what you're talking about with this this survey, right? We haven't evaluated their socio-emotional needs or their mental health needs either. So there's also going to be a component in a huge transition for students back to a physical environment. We have to be cognizant of that. And we have to be okay with taking the time to make this transition. Whether that means taking the first 2 weeks or first half semester to kind of figure all those things out, like we need to be okay with that. And the one saving grace, if I could call it that, I don't think that's a good thing to call it, but the one saving grace is that everyone's on the same page. Like everyone's going through this. So it's not like your school or the school down the street is in a different situation, right? Like all of our students had this gap, all of our students had this experience, and they're going to be at different places. But you want to make it so that your students can succeed with the lowest common denominator of scaffolds and support that they had during this time. We don't want to assume that they were all doing everything and then try to move on really quickly when we come back. So I love the pre-assessment, the post-assessment at the end of this year, the pre-assessment at the beginning of next year is going to be absolutely crucial. And I think being very transparent with our students about what we're thinking and how those things are happening. It's okay. The dog's fantastic.
She needs her 5 minutes of fame.
She's going to get a lot more on Sunday, right? We have to be cognizant of that, and we need to be okay. So Andrea Lynn's joining us. Alex is chiming in. So Tammy Jaminez said, yes, I think we all have to understand that students will be coming in lower than usual. I think teachers from the grade before need to talk to each other and find out what major concepts we may have missed. Okay, so that's a really good time for vertical alignment in the fall. Like we need to be having these conversations about like, what were you supposed to cover during the crazy time that was the pandemic? Like what were you supposed to have covered so that I can make sure we shore that up, especially in, like you said, those math classes and things like that. Same thing with science, right? So like science isn't going to build from one year to the next at the high school level necessarily because, freshman you might be taking physics and then sophomore you might be taking a biology course. So like you can pivot those types of courses pretty easily. What you can't do, however, is pivot. If a student can't write a thesis, they're going to have a hard time writing an essay in the first quarter of their 12th grade year if they were supposed to learn that in their 11th grade year. If they don't know how to, graph equations, it's hard for them to graph multiple equations in the first year of their senior year or something like that. So we really, really have to be cognizant of that. Aaron Reuter said we need to be prepared for both and switch quickly between person and remote learning. So I want to talk about that real quick. I want to make that the last thing we talk about because I could keep you here all day, but I don't want to do that to you. And then I want to get back. I want to let you kind of have the final word and share those books again, just for anyone joining us late. So I want to make sure everyone hears about those and can pick those up on Amazon on Sunday. So now, Aaron Reuter said we need to be prepared for both in-person and digital and switch quickly. So I want everyone, whether you're a district administrator or a teacher, I want you to listen very carefully because I've been talking through our masterminds. We've been bringing together dozens of leaders almost every single week from across the country to just talk through these problems. And I've been consulting with every single school and district we have to try to figure out what the best plan is. And in my opinion, the best plan you can have right now is plan to not be physically in your classroom in the fall. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be what happens, but what I'm saying is plan a universally accessible curriculum so that students can access the curriculum if they're not physically in your classroom, so that they can work on the curriculum if they're not physically in your classroom, and so that you can grade and report them in a standards-based, holistic way, right? So there are three pillars, I think, to every classroom to be successful. I think it is universal access to the curriculum. asynchronous learning for students to be able to work at their own pace, and a mastery-based approach to feedback, grading, and holistic practices in terms of reporting mastery for students, right? I think if every classroom has those three things, whether you're in the classroom or whether you're out of the classroom, which we don't really know, you're going to be able to be successful. If you're missing one of those components, if students can't access the curriculum digitally when they're not there, you're going to have to do a lot of work and scramble to make something kind of work, right? If students can't work at their own pace, your students are going to work asynchronously when they're not in your classroom. So like if we don't provide that option and we go to remote again, you're going to be stuck again. And if we're not providing mastery and standards-based practices and holistic grading practices that are non-punitive, we are missing the boat, because here's the truth. Every school is going to be standards-based in the next 10 years. I would bet my entire career on it. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think mastery and standards-based grading practices are not going to go anywhere. They are going to be here. So as far as I'm concerned, you can either get on the boat or you can have the train hit you while you're on the tracks in 5 or 10 years from now when everyone transitions. So get on the boat early. This is a great opportunity to start thinking about those things. And just like you said, I'm going to have you remind them some of those options, but just giving them options for how they demonstrate mastery, or focusing on 3 or 4 topics or standards as opposed to 15 assignments. I mean, we have to be innovative. We're in an innovative crisis right now, and we have to be able to be innovative, and that is awesome. And Andrea just said we need to take "you should have already learned this" out of our vocabulary. Yes, Andrea, yes, 1,000%. I don't want any teacher saying this ever in any classroom next year. So sorry, I got excited again. You just had so many great points, and the chat has been amazing. Whether people are listening live, there's been so much value in this daily drop-in. But before we leave everyone and I let you get on with your day, Kristen, what are some parting words you have for everyone? Let's start with kind of like a closing message that you'd like everyone to take from this daily drop-in.
Well, the biggest thing is make sure that when the students do something authentic, make sure you share it out, with permissions. We don't want students doing it just for us. We want them, because when they start in a career or go into the working world, they have to share it with other people. In fact, my seniors will be sharing their final project on Padlet, so it'll be public so others can see it. Along those lines, we have to understand students coming into the fall, whether we're remote or not. And if we automatically go into expecting them to understand something, we're going to lose them, and we're going to lose them for the rest of the year. We have to have that social emotional learning with them, and understand that even at home as teachers, like I said, I still have to do my work. I still have to teach my 10-year-old, but I'm doing both jobs, and it is difficult at times. And we can't imagine their parents that are not teachers that are trying to get their kids to complete the work. So we have to understand that they might be working and that they may not complete everything. So my dates are open. It's not like, even though I have a due date, it's not due, but I'd like to get it done. It shows that they can master it and know those standards. So we just got to be patient, and we just got to work through this as a team.
I love it. And before we go, I'd like you please share both of your books one more time, and then tell people how they can get your brand new book. So her first book is Differentiated Instruction in the Teaching Profession, which is fantastic. I love that cover, by the way. It's just awesome.
Thanks.
Great work on that. And then the next is going to be a children's story called Perfect Puppy. The Perfect Puppy. Okay.
The Perfect Puppy.
And tell everyone, where can they get that? When can they get that? In case they're joining us late.
So you can get them on Amazon. Perfect Puppy should be available in print on Amazon on Sunday. We will launch it on Sunday. You can also go through EduMatch Publishing, where they're actually 25% off now for any EduMatch authors. And you can get it there. You can also, like I said, also get it at Amazon.com. If you want an autographed copy, you can go to my website, which I'll post in the comments after the chat, and I can send you the autographed copy. But like I said, if you want to read any other EduMatch author books, you can go directly to their sites edumatchpublishing.com, and they're 25% off from that site only.
That's awesome. 25% off right now. EduMatch Publishing. Go check it out. Sunday, go grab that book. Right now, go to Amazon and check out the differentiation in the teaching profession. Differentiating instruction in the teaching profession. Go Google that. Search it. You'll find it. Absolutely fantastic. So, Kristen, I want to thank you so much for coming here and providing all this amazing value to our PLN. We got Tim Cavey, we got Sarah watching, we got Andrea watching. Everybody's here. Rochelle Dene Poth is still on. Like, we have like the who's who of just like everybody in education right now on this chat. So you brought out the best in our audience, and you brought out the best in me and this daily drop-in. So I just want to thank you very much. I want you to have a great morning, have a great day, and I want you to stay safe. So
thanks, you too.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. Central, or whatever time zone you're in. You guys do the math, because I'll get confused if we do any more than that. So we'll see you here tomorrow, 8 a.m. Have an awesome day. And as always, teach better, guys. Have a good one.